you text me about coming on and said you were in a documentary about cycling across the United States.
So,
or what's the...
Pretty much.
Is that what it is?
I'll give a little bit of background. So there's an organization called Zoe International.
Okay.
So I can't remember exactly when that got started, but their objective was to rescue kids from human trafficking.
Oh.
So I'm pretty sure they started in California.
Okay.
And then as
the race or the company?
No, the company or the nonprofit organization Zoe International started in California, and they began rescuing kids. And the human trafficking is a crazy network.
Yeah.
So that took them to Thailand. Like they have, I think, 6 or 7 different countries that they have bases in now.
Really?
And several across the U.S. now. So it grew significantly since they began.
Yeah.
So there's a guy named Brad Hortensi. He was a detective in one of the local police departments.
Okay.
And was state police, and he was instrumental in starting the state police human trafficking task force in Pennsylvania.
Really?
So he started that task force, and burnt out completely after a couple of years.
Yeah.
Of just the garbage that he had to sit through.
Yeah.
And not getting to see any restoration. He's pulling people out and then whatever, having to see them go back in or whatever happens after that. Christian guy. So he linked up with Zoe International and started doing a lot of work with them in Thailand. Shifting gears.
He went over to Thailand?
Yeah, he was in Thailand for several years.
So he was on the ground.
Yeah, he was rescuing kids, training people to rescue kids. The cool thing about Zoe International is they don't just pull them out of the situation. They take them to a safe place and rehabilitate them, get them off whatever drugs or whatever. And so they get them clean and try and reintroduce them into society. And then as much as that person wants, will stay with them for the rest of their life.
Whoa.
So if they need counseling services, whatever, they're really passionate about making sure that person has the opportunity to be restored.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So super cool Christian organization. So Brad gets linked up with them. Shifting gears a little bit, there was 2 drunk guys sitting in a bar in the 80s. Yep. And one of them was like, dude, I bet I could beat you across the United States on my bicycle.
Yeah.
And so this group of guys started this race. And it grew it was big in the 80s and 90s. And so it's essentially a race that starts in California and then ends on the East Coast. When I did it, it ended in Annapolis. So it's I forget, over 3,000 miles. 3,000 miles or 6,000 miles?
I think 3's
I think
across
3. Yeah. It was it was either 3,080 something or 3,089. Yeah, I think that's what it is. The total race length.
Yeah, I think because across the whole U.S., I think is 3,600 or something.
Yep.
I could be mistaken, but we're just going to go with it. We're not going to look it up.
Yeah, so that's how that race started. Mm-hmm. So Brad is also a cyclist and has enjoyed cycling for a while. So this race began to grow, and it became a platform for people to raise awareness.
Okay.
So Zoe International, with Brad as the team lead, put in an 8-man cycling team for the first time in this race in 2019.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
wait, and that's when you did the race?
No, so they've done it 3 times now. So
gotcha.
2019 they put it in.
Yep.
So fast forward to me getting involved.
Yeah.
2023, we have 8 riders. So 4 guys are sleeping, 4 guys are on deck.
Yep.
And you're doing leapfrog basically. So you have we had 16 crew members, 8 riders, a tour bus, 3 vans, a follow vehicle, a whole
that's sweet.
The whole race team.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. I thought you were going to say something.
Continue. Sorry.
Yeah. So we start in Oceanside, California.
Okay.
And you're sprinting.
That's Oceanside, I'm assuming, right up against the coast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The starting line is parallel to the beach.
Okay.
So start in California, and then it's a wild, wild ride the rest of the way across. So I was on night shift.
Oh, okay.
And the way this works is we have a driver, a crew chief who also does some navigation and stuff, a mechanic, which was my role. So a little background, I started working at the bike shop at 15, kind of worked all the way up through. My connection to Zoe was my boss at the bike shop.
Okay.
He asked me if I wanted to do this, and I was like, heck yeah.
Dude, that's so sick.
Yeah, so they decided to film a documentary about this race.
Mm-hmm. Zoe or just the race
Zoe.
people? Okay.
Yeah, so Zoe wanted to film a documentary about Zoe International and their team going across the U.S. The goal was to raise awareness and get the word out about human trafficking, about Zoe, and also to raise funds. So we raised over $250,000.
No way.
Yeah, so we got business sponsors and
that's sick
to cover the cost of the race, and then individuals donated the rest.
For sure.
So super cool, big impact there. As I started saying, the way this works, I was the mechanic, and I was sitting in the middle seat of a van.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got front passenger, driver side seats, and then you've got a bench. So the bench had the rider that was on deck, me sitting there with an iPad navigating, and then a camera guy.
Okay.
And then in the back was the two guys that were trying to eat and rest up for his couple of minutes off and get ready to go for next time.
So are you driving the van right behind the cyclists?
It's a good question. So the crew van is like hopping ahead of the cyclist.
Okay.
So
so like checkpoints kind of.
Sort of. So the way this worked was we had a rider riding, and you're sprinting, riding as fast as you can for 5 miles.
Yeah.
5 miles sounds far if you don't cycle, but once you get into cycling, 5 miles is
nothing.
Like nothing.
Yeah.
So sprinting as fast as you can for 5 miles. When you get to the end of the 5 miles, there's a rider sitting there on his bike waiting for you. You pass each other. It's a rolling start, and then the next guy goes for his 5 miles. So we have a follow vehicle with two dudes just chilling behind the rider, making sure he doesn't die.
Yep.
And then the crew.
The whole time.
The whole time.
So you're clogging up the freaking road with this.
Yeah, you got to be real careful.
Yeah.
So during the day, they kind of like pull off to the side, and like they might let him get ahead a little bit and then catch up.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because they don't shut down roads or anything like that. Like, this is during traffic. So the crew vehicle, meanwhile, what would happen was I would pick a spot on the map where we were about to roughly 5 miles, and where the incline was right for a stop and a start. Yep. And so we'd be pulling up and be yelling like, stop, here, go. And so the camera guy would throw the door open, and he had a bunch of camera gear on. So I'd give him a shove out the door, and he'd like stumble and catch his way out of the door because I was coming fast behind him.
Yeah.
So I'd run around, grab the bike off the back, the rider's getting out. I'd run up to wherever we were going to start. It was my job to get his lights on, make sure all of his gear's ready to go. And then he would get on the bike and clip in his pedals, and I would hold the bike still.
Gotcha.
And we'd have a spotter behind me, and he'd yell, 10 seconds out, start moving. And so I'd start to push him. He'd be like, 5 seconds, go. So then I'd sprint, push behind him. And as soon as they tugged, then I would give a shove, and they would go. So pretty much my screen time in this documentary is me shoving people. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I look like such an idiot in this documentary sometimes, and it's hilarious to me anyway. So I expected this to be just kind of like a fun time.
Yeah.
And I did not expect it to be exhausting on all the levels that it was.
Yeah.
And also so meaningful on all the levels it was. So one cool thing they do is all the riders have a girl that they're riding for. So
really?
They all like
one that was in human trafficking.
Yeah. So it might be a fake name, but it represents somebody.
For sure.
And they're getting updates from this person for like all the months riding up as they're training. Like, this is who they're training for. This is who they're riding for. So they got like henna tattoos or permanent marker tattoos of that name down their forearm. And so then, like, as the crew members, we'd have this like list of names.
Yeah.
And we'd like start every shift in prayer. And so like we'd pray for the individual we were doing, pray for safety.
Like every 5 miles shift?
No.
Or
so,
like you're on a shift.
So we're on for 12 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going for 12 hours. And I was night shift. So it's
and then a day shift will take over.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. So what was wild was the night is dark and cold.
Yeah.
Like duh. But like it's like I don't know if it was spiritual warfare, but it was depressing.
Really?
At some spots. Like those guys are putting out so much energy, and like it sounds like I'm not doing much, just sitting there with a tablet, but like running after them and stuff like that, and just being up for that long. And then I'll get into how I didn't sleep much later, but like it wears on you, and so you're in the middle of the night, everybody's tired and grouchy.
Yep.
And like our one climber, he like really messed up his nutrition. And
what's a climber?
Oh, yeah. So there are dude, watch the glasses go on and according to my calculations. Yeah. So there's different roles that the racers have. So you have sprinters, climbers, and descenders.
Gotcha.
So
and I'm assuming climbers uphill.
Yeah, you're going up the hill. It's the tiniest little dude that's got strong legs.
Yeah.
The sprinter is usually jacked.
Yeah.
Mat lap.
And are they for like the flats where they can just crank?
Yeah, I mean they're for everything, but they shine on the flats.
Yeah.
And then the descender is someone that's kind of balls to the wall,
just hauling.
like just sanding attitude. Our first day, we descended the glass elevator, which is out in California. There's a big mountain pass, and then you come down into the desert. And it's switchbacks. And the reason they call it the glass elevator is when you look out over the desert, the heat coming off the desert makes it just look like a sheet of glass.
No way.
And so as you're coming down, it's like playing with your head, you're getting mirages and stuff. So he was on the butt of this car that he caught.
Yeah.
And like if he had a horn, he would have been beeping it. And he kept like edging out to the side to try and pass him. And we were yelling, "Don't do it! He's gonna hit you!" Anyway, so like he hit, I think it was like 67 miles an hour on the bike, heading down this thing.
And
then he got stuck behind the Prius. Yeah,
freaking electric vehicles.
Yeah. So back to this climber. So he messed up his nutrition, which, like, when I don't eat lunch or something like that, I might get a little cranky.
Yeah.
But when you're like performing at that level, it messes you up. So he was sitting back there. Literally, everybody was giving him like their winter gear, and he was just sitting in the back shaking.
Really?
And then it would be like, "All right, man, it's you're up again." And he'd be like, "All right," and like literally tears running down his face. He's climbing out of this van, and so he had his phone, and he'd like put on worship music before a big climb. And so we're standing there waiting, pitch black, middle of Colorado somewhere. Just this crazy incline this guy's got to climb. And he looks awful. And
dude,
he starts singing this worship song, tears running down his face. He's like, "Alex," he's like, "pray for me, man." And then we're just both standing there in the middle of the road, grown men crying. It's like, "You got it." And it sounds so dumb.
Yeah.
But like it was bonding and like so cool.
Dude.
And like his testament, like just those prayers were so from the heart.
Yeah.
And like so like those help me God prayers are so cool. Like, dude, Lord, I need you right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to go up this crazy mountain. And it has like the parallels and like the analogies have been crazy in my life after, of just like,
really?
Yeah. Like I have a pretty easy life, but like just like looking at other people's lives and just like there some like it looks like there's not a shot you're getting up this hill. But that "Lord help me right now, I need you" prayer, it just comes through so clutch sometimes. Anyway, so that was wild to experience that. The other thing that happened that really bound us together is we had a rider go down.
Oh.
So
then you're short a guy, or do you have backups?
Well, yeah, but we thought he died.
Oh, like go down as in wrecked.
Wreck. Yeah.
Oh, dang.
So it was on day crew.
Yeah.
So I should explain before I get into that story.
Holy.
Yeah.
We just went in.
Yeah. Sorry. So, night crew was on for 12 hours. And then,
so it wasn't one of your crew. It was a day
was
crew.
not. It was a day crew.
Figures.
Guys.
Freaking day crew guys.
Fucking guys. What are they doing? So, we were all like pretty tight.
Yep.
Like we had hung out a little bit out in California, whatever. Night crew and day crew bonded incredibly like separately.
Yeah.
But there was also like a common bond there. So what happens on a transition is between shifts. Your 12 hours ends. The day crew has a van, night crew has a van. So night crew van pulls up to a spot that they predetermine. Day crew van shows up.
Yep.
They get one of their riders ready to go. It's a smooth transition. They take off. After that, your night crew van has to go catch up to the bus.
The coach.
The coach.
Okay.
Yep. So at the coach, then my job as the mechanic is to whip out all these bikes, figure out what needs to get done with them, clean them up, get them ready for the next day. We would usually be there for about an hour while the riders showered and got ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
And then we'd load up. So that hour was just about enough time for me to check over the bikes, figure out what I needed to do, and then we'd drive for 2 or 3 hours, and that was my opportunity to sleep.
Yeah.
So I had 12 hours off technically, but not really. So
because you're fixing bikes, you're doing whatever you need to do to them.
2 or 3 hours sleep. We get there, we stop. I pull out all the equipment I need, grab the bikes, and start cycling through. So each rider has 2 bikes.
Okay.
They have this is going to be so nerdy again. They have their TT bikes, time trial bikes, which are like super aerodynamic, like things you see in the Olympics, like those crazy looking bikes. So those are for the flats, and that's about it. And then they have their climbing bike, which is a lightweight bike. So I have 8 bikes to get ready to go for the next day.
Do their climbing bikes then also act as their descending bikes?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
yep.
Typically. Sometimes you'll do, we're getting in the weeds, but sometimes we'll use the other bike just because.
Yep, perfect.
So I woke up to get ready to do some bikes. We had just pulled in, and someone came back and woke me up, and they're like, hey, just so you know, Jeff went down.
Oh,
we
Jeff.
don't know.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, Jeff.
Oh, dude, Jeff sucked.
Yeah. So they're like, Jeff went down. We don't know much. We don't know if he's going to be okay. We don't know anything. They're like, when they got him in the ambulance, he was still alive.
Oh,
so
dude.
Yeah. So the other thing that went through everybody's mind was, so everybody on the team's a Christian except Jeff. So
dang,
he was close friends with like family friends. He has little girls, and one of the other riders has a bunch of little girls that got together, knew each other, whatever. And the parents hung out all the time. Crazy good cyclist. And they decided to have him on the team, even though he wasn't a Christian. And we're like, man, the guy to like maybe not pull it out is the only non-Christian on this team.
Oof.
So what happened was, he doesn't remember anything, but what they've pieced together from his computer that was tracking him and everything, he got on his bike just before the top of the mountain.
Okay.
In Colorado. So he was on his time trial bike because he wanted to descend like a maniac.
Yeah.
And it was really windy, and those time trial bikes are really like, they cut the wind in front of you, but if you get a crosswind, they're so long framed that it kind of works as a sail.
So it'll push you a little bit.
It'll push you. So he climbed the rest of the way up and then started his descent, and he was going just under 60 miles an hour. And they think he hit a bump, and he was going that fast that when he hit the bump, the wind just took the bike right up.
Pushed him.
Yeah.
No
just
way.
Like the bike just was gone. So the crew vehicle, so the follow vehicle, which is normally right behind him, went to go get gas.
Yeah.
So they weren't right behind him.
Oh, dude.
And the crew vehicle, they came up over the hill and just about not hit him, but like they were coming down the other side, and they're like, oh, there's a rider down. Like, oh man, I hope he's okay. And they're like,
that's
oh
our
my
rider.
word, that's Jeff.
Oh.
And so he was like still attached to his bike because you clip in your shoes and everything.
Oh, so it's not like skis. Like you'll stay attached.
Well, so when you're falling, typically your feet will try to go out, and that's the same motion that takes them out.
Yeah.
But yeah, not like skis. Like if you keep your feet straight, you'll stay in those pedals.
Hooked in.
So he was still clipped in his bike, like half under it, like really crumpled up.
Yeah.
So they came up to him. He's not moving.
Dude.
He's not anything.
Oh.
They immediately checked for a pulse, and they couldn't find a pulse. And I guess the way he was laying, like it, whatever. And then he moaned a little bit.
Okay.
And they're like, okay, he's still alive. So they like got him unclipped. It was kind of a God thing. There was a paramedic hiking with his daughter nearby.
No way.
And literally they just got back to the truck, and he had his scanner on, and he heard over the police scanner that there was an ambulance en route to this. He's like, this is right here. So in like 10 minutes, they had a paramedic there.
On scene.
Like getting him ready to, like, stretched out, making sure his heart's going. And like, I don't think they had to do any chest compressions or anything. But, so they load him in the ambulance, take him to the hospital. He's like, his face and like the whole side of him was just
road rash. Or what?
Yeah, road rash.
So he stayed on the road, though?
Yeah, he was on the road.
Okay.
He, like, slid off to the side from, like, the clothing and stuff that was on the ground and, like, the marks. They think he, like, hit, like, something and bounced back onto the road a little bit, too.
Ooh.
Like, he was sliding for a while. You're going 60 miles an hour.
Dude, you're going 60 downhill? Yeah, you're going to...
Yeah. Anyway, so he had, like, fractured skull, broken shoulder, ribs. I think his hip was okay then, but they thought it was broken at first. Yeah, so wild stuff.
Huge crash.
Yeah. So that was, it was, the most impactful part was I'm fixing bikes, getting ready for the next shift, the next day. So it went a whole day before we really got a lot of information on how Jeff's doing. And then it was like 2 days before he was walking around. So we're still in race 2 days later. And I was out there fixing the bikes, raining. It's kind of miserable a little bit.
Everyone's grumpy again.
Yeah, well, it's like, and like, I had a pretty good attitude about it, but it was like, as a mechanic, you are the one that's putting in the hours before and after shift and during shift.
You're pretty much the best. You're what's holding the team together.
Like, no, not at all, dude.
I also filled in for Jeff then and rode.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Wait, who did fill in for Jeff?
You're not allowed to fill in.
So the other team members got to make it up.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah, which I'll talk about this animal.
In Colorado.
So
you have the whole race in front of you. Dang,
this is like, I forget, day 2 or 3.
Yeah.
We made it in 6 days. So, like, anyways.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. So I'm fixing bikes, and Brad Ortenzi, the guy that started this whole thing, comes out, and he's like, here, watch this video. And it was Jeff, and he's like, hey, guys. He's like, it's like, obviously I wouldn't have wanted it to happen this way. He's like, I'm just so thankful that God protected me.
Yeah.
And, like, he's like, it's been amazing to see God's will in this. And, like, dude, I was crying instantly.
Oh, dude, instantly.
And so Brad was like a Marine, like, tough guy, like, whatever. You don't see emotion out of that guy.
No. Bawling his eyes
out. Yeah. And in that moment, I was just like, wow. Like, God, like, this horrible thing that happened and, like, could have ruined, like, pretty much made the race terrible for a while. Like, you took it and, like, this is your way of getting to Jeff's heart.
Yeah.
And he hasn't become a Christian yet, but, like, he's really searching.
Yeah, and the seeds are planted.
Yeah. And it was awesome to see that and how, like, God used that terrible accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times, even in my life, like, speaking from a perspective of a guy that does live a good life, like, very comfortable American white life.
Yeah.
And in America, we have come to a point in technology and just innovation that you no longer need God to survive.
Right.
Like, you don't.
Yep.
You have every comfort and luxury that anyone could ask for. And it takes, speaking for me personally, and I'm assuming I can speak for others as well, just because generally all humans have a relative same experience. But it takes to the point of something horrific happening where you actually change.
Yep.
And like, yeah, there's been so many times where it's like, oh, today's the day. And then I sit on the couch and do nothing or whatever. And it's like, you need those hard, which are horrible, and you have no idea how they're going to pan out, and just terrifying in the moment. And then you look back and you're like, holy smokes. Like, those are the most impactful. Literally, not to hijack from your story.
No, you're good.
Wrecked my car doing like 80 miles an hour right into a tree.
I remember this.
Not a scratch on me.
Yeah.
The cop that showed up, name was literally Jesus.
Nice.
And I'm like, I shouldn't be alive.
Yeah.
Like, I should not. Yeah. Distracted, right off the road, drilled a tree.
Yeah.
Horrible thing. Like, everyone came out like, super worried, and I'm just like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, like, this isn't me. Like, I'm not that lucky.
You're right.
Like, and there's so many times in your life where it's like, it breaks reality.
Yeah.
Like, you physically cannot explain it to yourself. Because a lot of times as humans, you can do that thing where it's like, that was a coincidence or like whatever. And there's been a couple times in my life where it's just like, no, I can't explain that.
Yeah.
Like, there's something. And growing up in the church as however young I was, like, even when I accepted Christ, there's been so many times where I've just lived this shallow, meaningless life. And it's like, you need those times where it's like, oh no, this is legit. Like, this is what's real and what I should actually be pursuing daily.
Yeah.
Dang. That's crazy. Okay, back into it.
Yeah. I mean, amen to what you're saying. Like, it really hits you in that moment too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this stupid thing.
Yeah.
Like, I can be pissed about it, or I can recognize that, like, this is God. Like, hey, Alex, kind of suck right now. Like, here I am.
Stop drinking.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's an awesome. It can be an awesome experience if you can frame it that way.
For sure.
Yeah.
And and the crazy thing is, like, that was a horrible situation, and there's even people that have like infinitely horribler situations, and for whatever reason they're like, dude, this is how God, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude, that gives me chills. It's the coolest thing, and it's also the most painful thing when you're in it. And especially for the guy that actually got destroyed.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and like, so you always know there's a risk, but it just is a wake-up call when something actually happens. And the riders are in a significant amount of pain. Yeah. Like, doing this stuff. Like, I mean, you go on a bike ride on a Sunday afternoon, you might be a little sore the next day. Like, sprint 5 miles. Like, anyway. And so they were all just like, when they were in the pits, they all kept saying, like, I can't imagine. He's like, this is a week. I can't imagine being one of these kids. And, like, the immense garbage they're dealing with. And,
for
like, they don't have, like,
life.
It's not a week. No. It is their entire reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get real fired up and go off on a tangent on that.
Dude.
Yeah.
Wherever we want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like The Sound of Freedom. Did you watch that movie?
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, so I got back from this trip and it came out in theaters.
No way.
Yeah, so I like went
that's
right to that. I was
sweet.
like, yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good one.
Dude, yeah. And it's like, it's tastefully done, but also too, like, it pisses you off.
Oh, yeah.
And when movies can do that, where like, those people are just acting, they're good people, and you hate them. Yeah. Which is like, obviously hating is a sin, and I got to work on that in my own life. But like, and you didn't see anything actually in that movie.
I know.
Dude.
And it brings it to a whole nother level. So with the kids ministry that I do, like, the crazy stories of like the gang stuff are kind of the fun ones to tell. But the ones that the kids tell you when they start to get to know you, and like the wild crap you can't even imagine. it hits you hard. Yeah. It's just so, it always, like when I was like a young teen, I was like, oh, my life sucks. Like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It just reframes your perspective. And yeah, man, I could go off on that too. Like, I grew up in a home with two parents. They weren't perfect, sure, but they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, they were really good, actually. And especially when you start looking around.
And, like, you don't think it at the time, but, like, who love you immensely.
Exactly. Yeah.
And, like, yeah, like you said, they're not perfect, and they will piss you off to the high heavens. And then just wait till you get married.
I bet, dude.
And then I'm excited for, like, me having children.
Yeah.
Your eyes go wide open because you're like, I hated them. Or I never had super, super strong feelings towards my parents of, like, hate. But there's been so many, like, arguments and stuff where me and my mom were screaming at each other. And it's just like, she was right.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. And, like, you see in their, and I don't mean this as a dig because we're all broken, but you see in their brokenness, it's like, oh, in that, they were still trying to do well by me. Yeah, they didn't. Maybe their anger took them a little far here or whatever it was. But it's like, yeah, going from, single to now husband, like, even stuff between my parents, like, when they would bicker and fight, it's like, you're idiots. Like, what are you doing? I'm hopped up on hormones. I love my girlfriend. This will always be this way. Yeah. How can you guys argue amongst yourselves?
Right.
And then you step into marriage and you're like, oh, I see it now.
Yep.
And I'm super excited for, when I have children where it's like, maybe even some of the things I'm still struggling with, like with parents, like, oh, why'd you do this or whatever. And then like being hit with that reality, like, oh, dude, in everything, they were still just doing what they thought was best for me.
Right.
Yeah, dude. Insane.
Speaking of parenthood, when's the baby due?
February.
Gotcha. I was going to say, so I've like started recommending to like everybody before you become a parent, do Camp Andrews for a week.
Oh, yeah?
Like, I'm not a parent yet, obviously, but like my perspective on like a lot of stuff changed by doing that. It stretches you in a way that you don't want to get stretched. Dude, and it's a party at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And anytime you can put yourself, and like that's something which I am actually really excited for with the direction of this podcast. I feel like I do love those experiences, and I feel like this will attract other people with those kind of experiences, and just like being able to share experiences like, hey, you should come do this. And like, yeah, okay. And hey, you should come do this. Okay. And I think that's where like that sharpening iron type deal, like that's where it gets built in a natural state that's actually kind of rocking. And it sucks. There's weird stuff that happens or like things don't go according to plan. But at the end of the day, it's like you said, you build those experiences, you have those, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So what, okay.
Back into it.
We dove off heavy. Colorado, dude wrecked 6 days. So that was day 2.
Yeah, they all run together, like your perspective of time,
but pretty
somewhere
much
around
that
there,
is the general gist of it, because that just repeats itself to your get
right.
home.
So one of the things I was going to say, like with a rider down, so there's now 3 guys doing a 4-person shift. One of the guys on the team, his name is Craig Whiteford.
Okay.
He's a scientist in a lab.
Whoa, cool.
But also an Ironman triathlete.
Oh, dude.
To the highest level. Like, won nationals, won, like, all kinds of crazy stuff. And, like, gets invited to, like, Kona, which is, like, the World Series of triathlons. And I was like, it doesn't really fit my schedule this year to go to France. Like, I'll do it next year because I'm probably going to qualify again. And, like...
So the guy's a freak.
An absolute maniac.
Yeah.
But a nerd. So awesome guy. But, like, he literally does his own blood work and, like, figures out the nutrition in his blood and, like, figures out what he needs to eat and stuff to perform at, like, peak
level.
Yeah. So he literally has it down to calculations what he's eating.
Whoa.
So when Jeff went down, Craig's like, it's all right, I'll ride some more. Sits down, does some calculations. Yeah,
puts
like
up the glasses.
I don't know what he's calculating, but yeah, he's like, oh yeah, I'll be good. And he was. Didn't slow down a bit. He's pulling like time and a half, double shift. Didn't even was just a maniac.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So if one guy goes down, what's the extra? So it's a 5 minute, so then or 5 mile, then does it go to a 7?
Yeah, so they played around with it. They didn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
So they played around with it some. They like tried doing like 10 miles, but that was too long.
Too much.
So they really messed around with a lot of different combinations to try and figure it out. The problem is if you keep doing 5 miles, so 5 miles for those guys takes like 15 minutes, if that. So if you're on deck, you've got about 40 minutes to sit.
Okay.
If that's
till you're back in it again.
Before you're back in.
Yep.
And that's including
with a 4-man crew.
With a 4-man crew.
Okay.
And that's including like walking back to the van, everybody getting loaded up, getting into your seat, trying to stuff some food into you and drink. And so you really only have like 10 to 15 minutes of just sitting and like
relaxing,
stretching and whatever, trying to get your mind back into it again.
Yep.
So if you do it down to 3, you have 0 time for that.
Yeah.
So like you're literally, you just sit down and then you're going
You're back again.
So they tried to stretch it out a little bit. It weighed pretty heavily on that crew.
Dang.
So the villain in the story. No. So there was another team, Viasat.
I already hate them.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
I instantly hate them.
They literally had like black jerseys. Like they're just so evil. Yeah. No, so they were a huge corporation with like tens of thousands of employees across the world. And they were raising awareness for their like new product they're rolling out.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Freaking get them out of here. Yeah. I would have pushed them off the freaking glass elevator.
Yeah, they like held tryouts for their team. So you can't do a professional team. They held tryouts for all their employees across the world, pay to fly you to California for this tryout.
Dang.
And then they picked the top 8 riders.
Yeah.
So those guys were insane. So we were keeping time with them pretty well through the first half of the race. I was going somewhere with that. So, big bad guy, like their team leader who's like high up in the company was saying crazy stuff in like press conferences, like just wild stuff.
So are you interacting with the other team, like other teams?
So you're passing them,
okay,
and you see them around. Yeah. Like when your coach bus is stopped, like you'll see them there, whatever.
Gotcha.
So we didn't hate them because that's sinful and we were a Christian team. But like, we
Jeff
got close.
Jeff hated them.
Yeah. And then they ended up being really nice guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
like
that's the worst.
The company was the big bad guy, but the riders were just dudes that were just kicking it.
That's awesome.
And so like when Jeff went down, like they sent gift baskets. Like
No
the
way.
riders paid for it. Like it wasn't the Viasat, like the company sent gift baskets. We came in second place behind them at the end.
How many teams were there?
So there were
2 teams.
No, there were 8, I think.
Okay, nice.
Of the 8-man teams, and then there was a bunch of 4-man teams, bunch of 2, and then single riders. So there's like thousands of people doing this race.
Really?
Yeah.
One dude, single rider, one dude
those
doing
guys
the whole
are
thing.
crazy. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, they'll like ride the first 48 hours straight. And then they'll stop for 2 hours, ride for 8, stop for 2, ride for 8, stop for 2, ride for 8.
So at that point, I've heard of like long distance runners where it's like, why do drugs when you can do this? Because you will hallucinate.
Oh, yeah.
So you think they're just tripping?
Oh, man.
Like 48 hours, that's insane.
They can't walk by the time they get to the finish line. Like those guys, literally, like you're just in a mind over matter for that long.
You're just Goggins in it.
As soon as you get to the finish line, they fall over.
Yeah.
Like there are literally people there to catch them.
Is there like medics at the finish line?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
And like, it's wild to do it a single rider.
Dude, yeah.
Anyways.
What are their times?
Like, I can't remember, but not that much slower.
No way.
Like they'll do it in like, I should look, but it's like 9 days or something.
Dude, that's like...
I don't know if that's even right. You should Google it.
Google that.
Yeah. Google like fastest RAAM single rider finish.
RAAM?
Yeah. RAAM.
Race across America.
Yep.
Where does the M come from?
I don't know. I have wondered that for so long.
I don't know if this is a single, but it says 6 days, 6 hours, and 43 minutes.
Yeah, we've done it faster than that, so that might be like a... Is it just a single rider listed?
New world record race across America. Oh, pairs.
So that's
the
2
double.
people. Yeah, so what's crazy is 2 people will beat 8-man
An
teams
8-man
across. Yeah.
Golly. Okay, hang on. Is a single rider... How much faster is a single rider?
How much faster?
How much faster is a single rider line at Universal?
Nice.
Okay, so I can't find... Yeah, I'm seeing a ton of stuff for the doubles, but not the singles.
Yeah. So it's not much slow. Like, it's surprising.
Dang. That is insane. I'm seeing stuff for RAAM trucks.
Yeah.
Wish they could do it pretty quick. Is single rider express pace faster? That's not it. Okay, so over 6 days, but that's still hauling the mail.
Yeah, so an 8-man team, we averaged like 21 miles an hour the whole way across. So
dang.
If you've ever ridden a bike, that is fast.
Yeah, that's scooting.
Yeah. So like those guys will still average like 15, 16 miles an hour.
Which is still hauling.
Right. Like when I'm a cyclist as well.
Mm-hmm.
Beginning of the summer, I start out right around 14, 15 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And then like pace, like not race or anything like that. And then by the end of the summer, I'm like 18.
Okay.
Just short rides.
Yeah.
And like...
So what's a short ride to you?
Like 15 miles.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so 18 miles. So we just did this triathlon. It was a 15-mile race, and I averaged 19 miles an hour.
Okay.
So now picture a single rider doing that for 3,000 miles.
Yeah.
Is crazy. But anyway.
That is so cool. That's such a cool experience.
Yeah. So when we came in second, we were, I forget, 5 hours behind them or something like that, which over the stretch of America is not that far ahead.
Yeah.
The riders waited around for 5 hours to congratulate us and give like condolences and stuff like that.
That's
Meanwhile,
sick.
their like head cheese was like, "Yeah, everybody else sucks. We're the best. Like, check out our new product." Anyway, but
he gives you his new product as the gift.
Oh man.
And the subscription plan.
Yeah.
Boy, I bet that made you feel bad though. For like hating those guys, and then they're
like,
actually super nice.
You can't even hate them after that.
Yeah, it's like, dang
like,
it.
It's like so humbling that they're humble.
Yeah.
It's like,
why
can't
nice?
you be terrible?
I just want to hate you at this point.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a lot more to say about the RAAM race,